Welcome to Studio 5, a great show ahead filled with music, comedy, and sports. Rapper D1 tells us what it means to be real, be righteous, and be relevant. The queen of clean comedy shares her memoir, and baseball player Royce Lewis shares his faith on and off the field. Let's begin now with D1. He is a rapper, scholar, and speaker who moved from being a middle school teacher to a musical lyricist, and he's calling us all to put our threes up. Be real, be righteous, and be relevant.
Sometimes I look around this world that we live in and I cry. So many people don't live life, they pay bills, then they die. And I can't lie, I really want my piece of the pie. But while I got you here, I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind.
When did you fall in love with this thing called hip-hop? What happened? Where did that connection happen for you?
I fell in love with it with my best friend. His name is Carl. And we looked up to this duo of rappers named Criss Cross. Criss Cross.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and they reminded us of ourselves. They were older than us, but they looked like us, and they just were cool. And I was in love with hip hop culture, from the way they dressed to the catchy songs and dances that went with their music. So fell in love with it as a consumer then. I fell in love with hip hop as a creator in college. The first time that I ever signed up to do a talent show on campus. When I had that microphone in my hand and I saw that the whole auditorium was all looking at me and their attention was locked on me in that moment, I started to realize the power that this microphone possessed.
Let me spit the truth on. I said that glorifying murder in our music is bad. Now people coming at me saying, stop speaking up. We like to hear that.
You're on a mission, if you will, to clean up hip-hop. What started that?
So what started it was my love for hip hop. And I realized that when you love something, you have two types of love that you can practice. One is affirmative love, but another type of love is called transformative love. That's where you say, I'm gonna affirm what I love when necessary, but I'm gonna challenge what I love when necessary, so it can be the best version of what it could possibly be.
That sound like Satan, but I'm responding with love, maturing as I go through this. It ain't just about how I love Jesus, it's about how well I love Judas.
There are some very toxic, very unhealthy messages inside of hip-hop music and that are a part of hip-hop culture at this point. And I just feel like if we truly love it, that we would say, oh, we can do better in certain ways. And that's just how I've always been. If I really care about someone or something, I'm not gonna be afraid to have the uncomfortable conversation.
You've been bold. I mean, calling people out by name, and I can't imagine what's that walk been like. I mean, to actually call by name, and I know you get criticism and pushback from both the Christian side and the secular side. What's that walk been like for you?
So that's why I'm here today, not to fuss, but to talk. Here we go, love 50. You a marketing genius and you stupid rich. Let's come up with a scheme and get a game of super fix. I seen you slaughter the careers of other men, but they were all brother men, so that's just another win.
When I call people out, I'm not calling them out because I hate them as an individual. I'm simply saying, you've chosen to create this, package this, and put it out there to the masses. Let's make sense out of this.
But I'm trying to see how you feel, because when you speak, people listen. Do you agree with me, disagree, or you feeling different?
Why are you still glorifying murder? Why are you still glorifying selling drugs? Maybe you sold drugs when you were a teenager or when you were in your 20s or something like that, but you are 20, 25 sometimes years removed from living that lifestyle. Let's talk about the progress you've made since then. But the problem is, a lot of these artists say, well, fans don't want to hear that. And I'm not here to serve people. I'm here to serve God, and by serving God, I'm going to help make an influence in the culture and on people.
Everybody's path is different. We all got a story. I never fit into nobody's box or category.
Your latest project is called From the Hood to Harvard. What gave birth to that?
Yes, well, I'm currently doing a fellowship at Harvard University. So when I found myself at Harvard University...
Did you ever expect that?
No, not at all, not at all, not at all, not at all.
It hit different when you finally realize that you belong, and you've been living life with imposter syndrome.
Am I smart enough to keep up with everybody here at Harvard? I went through that feeling, so I chose to make a song about it. So the song is called Imposter Syndrome. I made a song called Overwhelmed because while I'm a fellow at Harvard, I'm also still an active recording artist. I'm also still a public speaker, and I'm doing so many things to where I'm flying in and out of town and late nights, early mornings, and I was like, dang, I feel overwhelmed. I want to make a song about it. So I did a song on the album about that. So once I started doing all these songs about what I was feeling in real time, I looked at the track list. I was like, I have an album here. I have enough songs for an album. Now I need a title. And I said, you know what? Where did I start? In the hood. Where am I at? Harvard. From the hood to Harvard, there we are.
I'm not for everybody, and everyone ain't for me. But those who really get to see my heart, they adore me.
We all have a starting point, and we all have a destination in life. And I did an album about the journey from that starting point to that destination. So I want people to listen to the album and to think about, what's my starting point and what's my destination where I'm trying to get to? And D1 has just helped to narrate the soundtrack to what you feel along the way as you're ascending.
D1's latest album, From the Hood to Harvard, is available right now wherever you stream, download, and purchase your music. You can also get his book, a children's book. It's called David Found His Slingshot, simply by going to d1music.com. Still ahead.
How do you do?
The queen of clean comedy, Chonda Pierce, is in Studio 5 to talk about her latest book. Life is funny until it's not. A comic story of love, loss, and lunacy. Where's the lunacy part?
Right now, today, that's exactly right. You know, I think the lunacy has been there 24/7 always. But the loss and the laughter comes and goes.
Welcome back to Studio 5. Chonda Pierce is known as comedy's Queen of Clean. The stand-up comedian is also an actress and author whose newest book is a memoir. It's titled Life is Funny Until It's Not.
I did get all dressed up for this, and it took 3 fairy godmothers to get this dress.
Life is funny until it's not. A comic story of love, loss, and lunacy. Where's the lunacy part?
Right now, today, that's exactly right. You know, I think the lunacy has been there 24/7 always. But the loss and the laughter comes and goes. You know, but it is it's very much just life.
And people say weird stuff to you when they find out that you've lost your husband, and when you're a widow, they'll go like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear you lost your husband." Which I think sounds very irresponsible.
You've shared your struggles of love, loss previously, but we learned a lot of new things. I'll talk specifically about family secrets in that chapter where you're sharing abuse that you didn't think you suffered.
For me, I remember, when you open the wound, this sounds like a gross thing, but when you open a wound to disinfect it, to clean the wound, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's painful. There's things you find out about yourself that I go, oh, that's why I react like I do. That's why I don't trust people very well. That's why it took me so long to trust a loving God, is because my view of fatherhood was so distorted, and that's why I think counseling is so imperative.
What was the process like for you writing this book and being so raw and real?
It was hard. Now, I've worked on this for a while. I think there are times when you tell all, there needs to be an appropriateness to it. And that is, a lot of those people have passed now. This book would grieve my mother. She would see in it going, oh, I should have got out of that marriage sooner. I know my mother, because I'm so much like her. I should have done this, I should have done that, I had a wonderful counselor tell me one time, stop shooting on yourself. And I just cracked up at that, It's true. You can't go back, you can't regret, you can't because that's a fueling ground for the devil, it was not time to write that while she was living. I didn't write it, until my father had passed, because it's just not time,
One of the things you say, and I wrote this down so I got it right, is tragedy plus time equals comedy. Comedy plus time equals relief.
Right.
What do you mean?
Comedy is a great tool. It also could be very divisive. It can also be a great deflection. I have used comedy sometimes to deflect pain. You know, I used to tell a story about little old ladies at church, and one of them, you know, said I wasn't very P-R-E-T-T-Y, and I turned around and said, no, but I'm real S-M-A-R-T. And I remember telling that in a way, just hoping those little old ladies see that on TV sometimes.
Yeah. As a little skinny, knobby-headed kid with white hair, I skipped over to my mother real quick and said, those two ladies said I'm not very pretty. Do you think I'm pretty, Mama?
When you add time to your comedy, it becomes a great, beautiful release and a relief rather than used in a tough way. Now, I still dance on the edge, as Mama says. You know, I loved my 32 years. I have argued with God. How come I can't go get a Netflix special? Why am I going to get HBO? I want to be Ellen and have my own show, you know. And I lament constantly. And at the same time, boy, God did me a favor.
How are you feeling having done this for more than 30 years?
I'm ready to do a new thing. I get weary of the buzz, but you also caught me 1 week when we shut the buzz down. Yes. Yeah. Call me in September. I'll be telling my manager, you need to get me a show. I need to get out there. I am just bored stiff. You know, and that happens all the time too. And I crank up the buzz and go again, you know.
Sort of end the way you end the book, if I can. You talk about musical caskets.
It is the truth. Ephraim, you know my
really?
Yes, and you know my life. You've been out there in my house. You know, the funniest thing is when we went to bury Papa, there was no room for him because Jesus needs to come. You know, we're just running out of room in the cemeteries, and so I decided, because I had the means, I had buried my husband on the farm, so I dug them all up. My sisters, my parents, yes, my grip, and 4 bodies on a flatbed went through Ashland City, Tennessee. But it was so bizarre, and it was funny. You know, only God. Yeah. You could sit and laugh at tender times. Now, believe me, I didn't laugh the day one of them died, but a few days after, you start remembering silly things and funny things. You know.
Well, in light of the life that you've lived,
yeah.
If you could go back, we see a picture of you, little Chonda, yes, in here. If you could go back and give that little Chonda some advice, what would you tell that little girl?
First, I would throw my arms around her and going, you're going to survive some stuff, girl. You know, you're going to go through some grief, but you're going to have great love in your life. You are going to cry, but you're going to hear some laughs, you know, that will just be crazy. I think the first thing I would tell her is latch on to God quick, because He is going to walk you through some places you will never believe.
And I looked in the mirror, and there it was. I am the miracle. I'm surprised I'm still here.
Again, Chonda Fierce's book is called Life is Funny Until It's Not. It's available wherever you purchase your reading material. There is much more to come here on Studio 5, including this week's Story in Pictures. Take a look at this week's Studio 5 Snapshot. We celebrate a life well lived. Veteran actor Bill Cobbs. His career spanned decades and includes roles in unforgettable films like The Bodyguard, Night at the Museum, The Color of Money, and many more. Family fans and film buffs are mourning the loss of the Cleveland native, whose first big screen appearance came in 1974 in the film The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. He's died at age 90 at his home in Inland Empire, California. This look at his life in pictures is this week's Studio 5 Snapshot. Still to come, the star third baseman who's a coach's dream, and not just because he owns a Grand Slam record.
I always compare baseball to just the game of life. You learn a lot. There's so much more failure in this game than for most is in life.
We hit the field with Minnesota Twin Royce Lewis. Welcome back to Studio 5. Royce Lewis is back on the field showing the baseball world what it's been missing. He's hitting well over 300 with light tower power, and he says his faith in Jesus is the biggest reason for his success.
You know, I'm blessed enough to have the opportunity to play in the best months of the year for Minnesota. The Minnesota Nice term is definitely a true thing, you know, you feel that. Just so happy and respectful of the opportunity I have to be a Major League Baseball player. Something that post-draft, they told me it was me as a person and how I was and how I responded to them and how I acted that really brought them ultimately to make that decision of taking me #1 overall. The talent was there for sure, but they talked about what was the deciding factor between, you know, me and 3 or 4 other guys. That made me and my family the most excited and happy to be a part of this Minnesota organization. I always compare baseball to just the game of life. You learn a lot. There's so much more failure in this game than for most is in life. You know, I'm failing 7 out of 10 times, and that's a great Hall of Fame baseball career. But in life, if we fail 7 out of 10 times, we're probably in trouble. When I'm able to be productive and efficient in this game, good things tend to happen. And when I'm able to be productive and efficient in life, I feel like it definitely makes life a lot easier and a lot more fun. When I'm able to pray before the game and when I'm out on that field, I know that he's there with me. And sometimes you're in a situation that you prefer not to be in. He says, you know, your time's not now, I have a better idea in mind. And that's kind of the feeling and the fulfillment I get from Jesus Christ that I have come to learn. Humility, to me, what it means is someone that has like a knight in shining armor, that armor underneath something that they may do great things, but they put it off to everyone else because they realize it's not them who's doing it. And that's, to me, is Jesus Christ. It's my parents. It's, you know, the rest of my family. And they're giving me that armor to be the man I am today and put me in the path to be successful.
Royce was ranked the 10th best prospect in baseball by MLB.com. Welcome back to Studio 5. As you know, music helps us to bring you this show each and every week, and this week's soundtrack comes from Sanat and Travis Green. Take a listen and you'll hear why We Bless is what's playing in my ear this week. On that musical note, we are just about out of time for this week's edition of Studio 5. You've got time for just one more thing, the final word. Let's give that to D1.
What's the point of writing all of these lyrics if I'm rapping to an audience that ain't trying to hear it? They'd rather me blow a bag than rap about building wealth. They'd rather me get some brain than rap about mental health. Don't censor me. Eventually, try to make sense of me. I don't need your dollars. I need you to think sensibly. You feel good now that you're vegan? Huh, that's funny. If you're still promoting garbage, you're just a healthy dummy. My city don't even love me. I'm calling it how it is. I'm a threat to the power structure that's brainwashing our kids. I'm fracturing all the egos of illegitimate heroes. I only look up to one man, because he died, then he rose. I keep it too real, because life don't last too long. If everybody likes me, I'm doing something too wrong. Maybe in time, they'll appreciate my words like Nipsey. Till then, I'm going to see how far keeping it real gets me. They don't like me, but they know they can't deny me. See, I'm a real gangster, and they know right where to find me. Gangsta. Do not try me. Growing and nurturing gifts, serving the Almighty.
David Augustine, D1, thank you so much. That's a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then please come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.